Welcome in, one and all, to another edition of Off the Record, where we go, you guessed it, off the record. Dylan Mamba Smith is laughing at me once again through the intro for the second week in a row. We got Bozi Tatarevic on the show with us, and yes, I pronounced that correctly.
Nice work. I appreciate that.
For the second time in a row, the biscuit connoisseur himself, and we are currently waiting on our third guest, Hannah Newhouse, who, quote, forgot it was happening, even though, Mamba, you texted her earlier, so what could she possibly be doing?
Well, the crazy thing is she texted me, and she was like, oh, hey, who's going to be on? Like, out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it's going to be me, Davey, and Bozi, and you. And she's like, okay, sweet, word, bet. Be there, da-da-da. Nothing. And I'm like, okay. And then apparently,
Look, Bozi just got into his house from a long weekend in Long Beach, no pun intended. He was in Charlotte too. Now he's home. He had some headphone issues, but he rectified those. If Bozi can come from Long Beach and prioritize us, Hannah's got some planning to do. Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait for her to get here and get this heat.
I don't know. Was she on the road? She started doing some of our races, and I don't know if she was on the road at some race or.
She was at Martinsville, I think.
Oh, she was at Martinsville.
Martinsville. She has no excuse.
We'll ask her when she comes on.
Yeah,
Bozi, how was Long Beach though?
Long Beach was badass. It was awesome. Like, it was my first time doing that race, and it's a cool scene. Like, just everything happening in the city and so many different series running there. So I'm there with IMSA, with Lexus Vasser Sullivan, Lexus RCF GT3. We had a pretty good run, but there was IndyCar was there, especially was there, series finale, then had like stadium super trucks, had drifters out there, vintage Formula Atlantic cars, which was like amazing. So it was like all this cool stuff that was happening all at once. And it's like this festival atmosphere. Like, I want to see more motorsports events like that, because you had fans from all these different types of motorsport coming there, and they're like, well, they might have come to see IndyCar, but like, oh, look, there's some cool IMSA stuff, or there's some stadium super truck stuff and all this stuff. So people are getting exposed to things, and there's just cool little midway with like fan activities. I know Lexus had some simulators set up for people to drive, like basically the cars we work on the sim. And I mean, a bunch of the other OEMs, of course, Acura was out there sponsoring and stuff like that, so they had a whole bunch of stuff, had new cars, and then looked like there was a lot of great food. I was working for most of the weekend, so I didn't really get to check that out, but I passed by some of the food stands, and I know they had some like spicy Cheeto roasted corn that looked amazing. I just didn't get a chance to get down there. Yeah. So it's like a whole cool atmosphere. It's very cool. Very cool.
I'm gonna say something that, I picked up being on NHRA and being on that side of motorsports. NHRA, it doesn't matter if you're John Force or Davey Segal, you're in the same paddock, right? So your local guy is in the same paddock as your pro. So I think that's so cool. And I really would like to see some of our stock car stuff maybe take some advantage of that mindset, where it's like, let's all kind of be in the same paddock at the same time together, because we're all in the same, we're together. Like, let's be together because we are together.
Well, you saw that with the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader at Indianapolis, but I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's so many different things that could be going on, not necessarily just with IndyCar and NASCAR. I mean, hell, why can't we do a Formula One NASCAR doubleheader at Circuit of the Americas? Why can't we do something with IMSA? Why can't there be an extravaganza somewhere, somehow, some way, of all the major forms of motorsport? Formula One, IndyCar, IMSA, all the different classes. Why not? Xfinity, trucks, Cup, bring Canada down from the Pinty series, put the modifieds out. I don't care. This would be amazing. You can have like an all-encompassing one ticket that gets you access to every race the entire weekend at the same place. I mean, who wouldn't buy that?
The thing about it, and Bozi, tell me if we did that, right? Honestly, we could do it for a week. It'd be like a week race.
It's like a festival.
Don't try to cram it into this weekend and this Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. Give us the midweek stuff. Do the whole thing.
I'm down.
I think that would be wild. And there's places where you can make circle track tracks or road course tracks at the same venue. We can figure that out. We made a small Martinsville on the backstretch of Daytona. I mean, come on.
We're going to the Coliseum.
We're going to the Coliseum.
Yeah, there was some discussion about that since we were in Long Beach, which is pretty close, about the Coliseum and everything. And I can see some of it. I can see just seeing the fans out there at Long Beach this weekend. I can see the draw for NASCAR a little bit better for going to the Coliseum than I might have seen even, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I can understand just seeing and having those interactions with the fans there in Long Beach, like why they want to go there. One of the most significant things I noticed is there was a drift event. It wasn't even Formula Drift. Formula Drift ran a week before us. It was like Super Drift or something like that. And they had global time attacks. So this is a lot of grassroots, kind of halfway grassroots, halfway pro drifters and like time attack drivers. And their fan base there locally in Southern California is huge. So for like NASCAR or anybody else to tap into that group will probably be significant. So if NASCAR can grab some of those for LA Coliseum, grab some of the people that are going to be in town for the Super Bowl, all this other stuff, like I think I see it a little more clearly than I might have seen it a few weeks ago when things were announced. So I understand that perspective. And I think that anytime you can kind of combine groups and stuff, it's a benefit. Oh, hello, Hannah.
Speaking of combining groups, welcome to the show, Hannah. What could you have possibly be doing that you forgot us?
I was at the park with Janet.
Oh,
Wow.
That's classic.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. I literally we were pulling out of the park because I was going to go after dinner. And I was like, why did I plan on going after dinner? Like, why wouldn't I just go earlier in the day? And Dylan's like, it's going to get dark early. Let's just go. I was like, I feel like I had something planned. So we went to the park. And then as I was pulling out of the park, Davey's like, dude, are you going to get on this podcast? I was like, oh, I totally forgot. Sorry.
And you texted Mamba about it earlier today.
Yeah. Yep, I did. I take my days 1 hour at a time, Davey. You should know this
Really?
more than anyone.
Well, I mean, I know this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just figured that you had your shit together. Apparently not.
No, I do not.
Shit, not together.
Never.
It is a messy shit.
I can relate to this. I plan sometimes 2 days, but that's about as much as it goes. Just
Yeah, I used to be like a calendar girl, like one that would do all my write stuff down, and I was still missing stuff. So I'm like, if this is not working, I might as well just really embrace the chaos and just
fair enough.
roll
I just
with
look
it.
for the pop-ups on my airplane apps, and that's it. Other
Yeah.
than that, it's fine. I'll figure
as
it out.
long as you
along the way.
get to the airport when
Yeah,
you need
yeah.
to be there. Half
That's
the time I
fine.
don't know where I'm going when I get there.
Yeah.
This is why it's good to have people that plan your travel and send
Yeah.
you like spreadsheets. It's nice.
I
You
wish
want
I
to talk
had
about I was gonna say, you want to talk about spoiled, like we're spoiled like that with MRN and like the NBC stuff. When I did my Dirt Vision stuff this year, it's a free for all. They're basically like, hey, here's the racetrack that you need to get to at some point in the week, like Wednesday. Good
Get
luck.
from point A to point B. Doesn't matter how you get there.
3.5 hours to the closest airport. But you need to share a rental car because we're budget here. So you need to share a rental car, and everyone's coming from different states. Good luck.
Hannah,
And
you know I've had experience with this. We've talked
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Good times.
Yeah,
Unreal.
I am lucky there with Vasser Sullivan and the whole team
Yeah.
there. Is I get a
You're a
spreadsheet
high
of
roller.
stuff a week ahead of time because I'm very bad at
Nice.
planning on my own. This is the hotel, this is the rental car, this is the person that's the assigned van captain. So we know even ahead of time who has to drive the van from the rental car place to the hotel. So you can plan for everything and know whether you can have a drink on the plane even and all this other stuff.
Yeah, man. I wish that I had my flights booked for me. But I'll tell you what, a lot of people that had their flights booked for them were the people in Las Vegas this weekend. Now that we got all four of us here. By the way, this is Hannah Newhouse, Motor Racing Network, of course. Dirt Vision did some television work with NBC Sports on the IMSA side of things. She does it all. She is wonderful. We know this. We love her for it. Let's talk Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas, Denny Hamlin says. Chris Gabehart told him on the radio after the race, Viva Las Vegas. We usually talk about the Cup Series race here on Off the Record first and foremost, and it usually carries us throughout the show. But I'm going to be honest, not a whole lot to unpack with this race. It was very straightforward, 1.5-mile track, not a whole lot of cautions besides Joey Gase's tire literally flying off the entire car. He is okay. Released from the hospital, thank goodness. But there wasn't really a whole lot to unpack with this race. I'll go to you first, Mamba. Denny Hamlin wins the race. Again, his second win of the season, second of the playoffs. No worries heading to Talladega and the Roval. And again, pretty straightforward race. No real surprises in mine.
It was just a race. It was a race. It was
Confirmed. It was a race.
It was a race. It was nothing like over the top crazy. The strategy got a little weird. Some people made probably some poor decisions on strategy, but hindsight's 2020. And if you get a caution here or whatever, then it changes the whole thing, right? So I did feel bad for Byron, and he had a flat tire. They came from the back, was super fast, had a hang up on pit road, and then had a fight. Like they had so much trouble, but I still think Willie B is gonna pull some magic out of the hat and make it to the next round. But and Chase almost made it exciting there at the end for us. He almost got through the bubble, as they call it, to get to the back bumper. But it's Vegas. I love Vegas still.
Yeah. Bozi, I know that you were in Long Beach, so I know that you may not have been able to watch the entire race, but I'm sure you've seen some highlights. You've seen some chatter on Twitter. A lot of people are bashing the 550 package and the sky is blue, the grass is green. What else is new? I know that.
Yeah.
Overall thoughts about the race, though. What'd you think?
I think it was pretty solid race considering how some of these intermediate 550 package races go. I did not see the whole race full out, but I did watch portions of it and did watch some highlights and just caught up on it. And it's just, it's the nature of it. You got to have good strategy. You got to have track position with these cars. So I know that people are going to, holler about the 550 package and intermediate tracks and all this other stuff. And it's a known commodity by now. So if you're doing strategy, you have to plan your strategy around that and plan where to put your car so you're not ending up in that dirty air or whatever's happening. And, obviously there's some, opportunities maybe there to get to a certain point and pass or do whatever is needed. But, from my perspective, then he had it in the end. Chase was chasing him down, but it was kind of a moot point by that period, unless they had 10 or 15 extra laps, then maybe something could happen. But it is how it is with with that package and these types of tracks.
Hannah, do you have your personal servant just come into the screen here and bring you a drink?
I asked him for a glass of water. I'm a little parched from that walk with Janet.
Was that Dylan?
Yeah, it was Dylan.
Which is funny.
No, it was Janet. Who do you think it was?
Sometimes they had a room. They used to have a roommate that lived
Dylan
there.
asked if he got fired from the show, which is why I'm on it.
No, absolutely not.
Oh,
Dylan
we just can't
man.
have two Dylans at once. I need to prepare for that.
It would be. It'd actually be 3 when you add the producer.
Actually, that would be
True.
3. Sorry,
Yeah.
producer Dylan. Wow,
But
can't believe I
anyway.
just did that to you.
We digress.
Anyways, okay, take a drink of water while I ask you this question, Hannah. I know you're at Martinsville. We're going to get to that, but you spent plenty of time out there in Vegas. It was hot, but it's a dry heat. We understand that. The Cup race specifically, you've covered your fair share of 550 races over the last couple of years. I know there's a lot of talk and debate whether or not this is the right way to go. This is not the right way to go. Denny Hamlin doesn't care about any of that. He's got to be feeling pretty good heading to Talladega next weekend with not a worry in the world.
Yeah, there are a couple of racetracks that I think with the 550 package should not have 2 races, and Vegas is one of them. I like Vegas. I like the environment. I think this just doesn't work there. And I watched the spring race and I saw how the spring race went. So I was like, don't really need to watch the fall race. I also was recovering from getting home from Martinsville late last night. So I'll be honest with you. We watched the beginning of the race. I fell asleep. I woke up to Denny, the Rick Allen windup, as I like to call it. And he does it. His playoff reign continues. He'll cross the you know what I mean? You got 2 full laps of the Rick Allen windup.
Rick Allen joining off the record this week.
Yeah. So I knew who won. It woke me from my sleep to tell me that Denny Hamlin won, caught post race. And from the likes of Twitter, it sounds like I didn't miss too terribly much, to be honest with you, which I can usually time my naps appropriately. But I understand that, this is what annoys me the most about NASCAR Twitter. And I think I've heard Bozi talk about it. I've seen Dylan talk about it. It's like football. There are games in football that suck. At the end of the day, you just watch a washout game and it's terrible. And guess what? Football fans, they're going to watch the next game. They're going to watch the next game on Sunday, and every race can't be exciting. And you know what
they're also going to do? Not complain all week about how bad the last game.
And I think we just need to, we as industry members get it. Yeah. We're like, well, that wasn't a very exciting race. Cool. There was a barn burner race. Awesome. On to the next, because we just understand that. And for some reason, motorsports fans feel the need to be entitled to be completely entertained every single race. And it's like, it's just an unrealistic expectation. Sorry, it's not how it works.
Well, part of it too is any stick and ball sports, half the people are going to be happy and half the people are not.
Right.
We are in a place where maybe at most 10% of the people are going to be ecstatic, right, with whoever wins. So
well, and I think the floodgates open because we share so much internal knowledge with our fans. So it's like, realistically, we could go to the racetrack and not tell any of the fans if this is a 550 package, a 750 package. So the fans have this knowledge and they're watching the product on track and it sucks. And they go, why aren't we running the 750? It's like, they don't really comprehend exactly what's going on, but they just see the product wasn't good and it's our fault because we're not running the alternative. So it's like, there's just a lot of different things. Like, you know, they're not going to look at the football team and be like, well, you should have played a green ball, because every time we've had green ball, you know, games, it's been a great game. But
you should have played on AstroTurf.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many different variables that play into it in motorsports compared to stick and ball sports. So like, they find the little avenues that this is why it was a bad race. And it's like,
people are always going to find a scapegoat. And I think that part of it is what you give them. So they're going to find what the package is and what goes on and how it happens and all that stuff. And they're going to complain about it. I think the trick from my perspective is to educate them on all the other variables that go into what happens in the race. So
good luck doing that with racing fans.
Well, you just have to make your best attempt. And I know it's hard, and people
do a great job of that.
People are stubborn, but if you keep sharing enough information, eventually somebody will pick it up. And then the fun thing I find is that I'll share some technical detail and be like, maybe there's 6 people interested in this, but there's like 6 people that are hardcore interested into it. And then every time somebody complains, they'll share that fact with them and be like, I learned this here, and it gets passed down the line. And I think that's the trick to it, is just educating people on the bigger picture and everything else that happens in there. So maybe you might not catch all the people, but if 50% understand a little bit better about why this has to be this way, then maybe they won't complain and be like, okay, I know, we'll wait for next race and it'll be more fun.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll tell you what, a lot of people can benefit from looking at your Twitter, Bozi, because you tweet out some insanely informational stuff, from the next gen car to sports car stuff. I mean, we talked about it when I had you on my podcast, Victory Lane, right? Like,
thank you.
The threads that you have are awesome. With that being said,
I would say Bozi educated me. I just want to put that, like, he
educates
educates
everyone.
Me, and then I walk into the IMSA garage not knowing up from down. That's not true. I did a lot of studying, but there's only so much you can study. And he was like, come here, let's go. He's like, I'm going to explain this all to you. And he like walked me through the car, explained to me the like comparison between what's going to be on the next gen to their cars. And I was like, oh, whoa. So hats off, much appreciated.
Well, that's like I always said, like, you reached out however many weeks before you came, like, hey, I want to learn more. And like I said, I told you there, like, anytime anybody's interested in learning more and sharing more, especially about something that I work on, I'm always down. So it's good that you asked. For me, that's like the biggest thing there.
Davey, you should know better than to have me on and try and keep a podcast on its rails.
Not on the rails. The second we invited you on, we understood that was coming.
It's also off the record. So like, there's no real
off the rails, off the record, whatever.
Yeah,
it's like a sled. We're like a snow sled. You just kind of aim for a path, but you could end up in the trees.
We like aim for the trees and end up there too.
Just prepare for the worst.
Yeah, that's fair. That's literally every production that I'm a part of that never stays anywhere near the subject that's in
Welcome
the
to NASCAR Media.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
It's fun. It's exciting.
Glad to have you. All right, I'm going to do my best to keep us pointed on the straight and narrow and not to the trees. But I'll keep it quick. What I was going to say was Bozi's so informational, all these technical details, and like, the driver can make an impact here. The car is very sensitive here. With all that being said, Josh Berry's a damn good race car driver, isn't he? Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, second win of the season, that's fine. I think the thing that's going a bit underappreciated, and I'm guilty of it too, second race team that he's done it with. It's at Junior Motorsports, but the 1 team is different than the 8 team. And oh, by the way, he's driven in the Cup cars this season. He's driven for 2 or 3 truck teams, a couple other Xfinity teams. Mamba, all the guy does is run up front, take care of his stuff, and show that he should have probably been in the Xfinity series a decade ago, but better late than never.
It's kind of nuts. Not kind of, it's extremely crazy. And I texted him yesterday, or whenever this comes out, I texted him Monday or Sunday, whatever. And I was like, dude, you are keeping the dream alive. Like, he's keeping the dream alive. Guys like Priest, guys like LaJoy, and, Ross Chastain, they're the reasons why people keep trying to make it up the ladder, right? Mm-hmm. They are injecting hope and will and passion into young drivers, and I love it. And it was weird, honestly. It wasn't weird to see him win on Martinsville weekend for the late models. It was very weird to see him win and not be at Martinsville for the
He
late
would have been
models.
there if Annette was healthy too.
Right. So like, you know, and you know, I hate that Annette is hurt and he can't run, and he's obviously like very like seriously hurt with his injury. But I love it for the one guys. I'm sure those guys have been a group for a minute and been grinding, and they've had some success, and some years have been better than others. But for them to be able to get a win, I think that's cool. And I think that means that I think they can still win the championship from an owner's perspective.
Battle. Yeah,
so that's big, and that's something that the fans don't really pay much attention to, and it matters a lot. So.
Yeah, and I know that you've seen Josh up close and personal on the late model side, on the K&N side, on the ARCA side, whatever, what have you. But this just once again proves that if you give a quality race car driver with experience a chance in good stuff on high levels, odds are they're probably going to get it done.
Yeah, and I think I want to play to devil's advocate a little bit with like what Dylan said. And, you know, people like this are injecting hope into the short track racing, but kind of look at the struggles that they've went through. You know, it's not like it's not like Josh went and won the biggest race of the year and they went, wow, this kid deserves a chance. Everyone's going to gather together and do everything they can. I mean, we saw people put their financial hopes and dreams on the line to get Preeson in a Gibbs car. And it still really didn't quite get him anywhere. Like he still had to claw and claw and claw. And it takes another level of beyond the talent, the determination and the willing to sacrifice to get there. And to be quite frank, like I look at that as a short track racer. And while, yes, you see these guys breaking through, I've seen what they've had to go through. And it's actually kind of discouraging that like there are still kids that are out there just writing checks and being able to get in these cars. And someone like Josh Berry, it's taken him 10 years to get an Xfinity shot when he should have gotten it years ago. You know, and Priest, the situation he's in, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know where he's going. You know what I mean? He got there, but okay, to what extent is he going to stay there? You know? So it's great to see them get the opportunities, and it's so well-deserved. And there's so many people out there that should have, or still should get a shot and aren't. But yeah, I will say the environment at Martinsville was definitely different because Josh wasn't there. So all of a sudden you saw this revival of like all these.
Everybody's like, oh, we got a chance.
Oh, we got a chance. We got a chance. And like when I saw that Josh had won the Xfinity race, again, as a driver, I'm sitting there going, love the guy. I wonder what's going through Michael Annett's brain right now. That Josh was able to get in this car with this team that he hasn't worked for in one. Like you would hope that Michael's maybe giving Josh a phone call or sitting down with the team and going, okay, what did they hit on at Las Vegas that Michael can take forward? Or, you know, what the conversations are being had there, because you would hope that someone would want to take that and learn. Like Josh clearly hit on something. So you would hope that Michael would want that same success with his team when he does return, whether it's this year, next year, however that works. But you know, the guys in the shop and the crew guys definitely needed that revival. But as a driver, I know that if I was in a car all year and really hadn't seen a bunch of success and was out for a weekend and someone got in my car and won, wouldn't make me feel real good about myself. And I know Dylan can attest to this too. Like if you run a car all year and someone else gets in your car and goes and wins a race, you're not feeling real good about yourself, are you, Dylan?
Yeah, it would suck, right? You're like, damn, I'm great. But here's the thing to close that part out and let Bozi kind of take the reins of this question is like, this deal isn't for everybody. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. Like, even what we're doing right here, it is a grind. It is a grind, and it's supposed to be. And that's the part that I love about it, because there's so many people that give up on it. And then I'm sitting with 3 other people right here that ain't giving up on it. And it's not like we're race car drivers. We're not just making all this money doing this, right? Like this right now is a smidgen more than a hobby for us. We're just trying to make it grow into something fantastic. So like, you know, I respect the hell of what Hannah said, but nah, it ain't supposed to be easy. And you know, if everybody who deserved a shot got one, no one would be trying to do it. So, you know, I still hang my hat on the hope.
This is a grind. Shout out to Molly Helmuth, who's going to run the Snowflake and a pro
Bubba.
late model.
She just
with
called
Bubba
me,
Pollard. Yeah, I just saw all of her stuff on social media.
Cool.
She is a badass, and I'm so excited to just hear. Even if, you know, she's not really trying to career make it anymore, but to get that opportunity,
No, yeah.
Very cool.
Props,
Very
girl.
cool.
We
That's
love
awesome.
9D creative in this household. Bozi, what were you going to say?
I say my thing is I think I'll take the middle ground between Hannah and Mamba, and basically I think that you're supposed to have to work for it, but there should also be opportunities. And I think the best example, just kind of from thinking from this past weekend at Long Beach, I saw Kyle Kirkwood, who he's driven for us in the Lexus at Rolex 24, and he drives in Indy Lights, so he's kind of part of that Indy ladder system, and he's kind of working through that. And I think that I agree with Mamba that it should be the best of the best. There should be a grind, but also agree with Hannah that there should be a pathway for racers in stock car racing kind of to work their way to a certain point. So I think something like the ladder that we see in IndyCar could be beneficial to have in stock car racing, because Kyle right now is, battling for the Indy Lights Championship, and if he's able to win it here at Mid Ohio, which is their last race of the year, he'll be able to get a scholarship to compete in IndyCar. So that's basically what he's looking at right now. And, I saw him, this weekend, and we, just had some conversations and stuff. And, he's very excited to be in that position and trying his best. And I think something like that in stock car racing could be beneficial, where I understand that there's going to be people with funds that are always going to come in, but even if you have that opportunity kind of to split that middle ground between what, Hannah and Mamba said, is you could have 1 or 2 opportunities per year for somebody to move up a step each year and to eventually get to the Cup Series.
It's hard.
There used to be a program like that. I just want to say there used to be a program kind of like that, Bozi, in the K&N West series that I know of, that Bob Brancotti with Sunrise Ford always fielded 2 cars. And when I was trying to come up through the ranks, we called one the paid car and one the charity car, which probably has bad connotation, but you had the paid car and the charity car. And truly what happened is Bob put his own funding, his Sunrise Ford, and probably a little bit of the money that came from the rental car to this one car, and put a kid that was up and coming on the West Coast in that car. Derek Thorne is one of them.
Derek freaking Thorne.
Yeah, Derek Thorne dominated, won a
man.
championship, won a bunch of races.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there was no program like that at the next level, whether that be trucks, Xfinity, whatever. He'd reached the top of that level. And it kind of got to a point where, unfortunately, Bob couldn't afford it anymore. So the year that I kind of came around, I had actually sat down with Bob and talked to him about getting in that car. And he was blunt with me. He's like, listen, this is no longer a game that I can financially do that in. And I have a kid that's willing to write a check that equates the other guy that's writing a check. And for the sake of finances, I have to take it. And I was like, I'm not salty about that. I get it. This is a business game. And it became 2 paid cars. But for the longest time in the K&N West series, they had those opportunities. Bill McAnally, same thing, had 2 Toyota drivers. And TRD paid a lot of the bills over there. And then he would usually try and put someone in one of the cars, whether it was a part-time, a full-time, with the peak deal, giving someone an opportunity at that level. And it's just, we've hit a point in the industry that there's so many people that are able to pay, and it's a financial game. It's why would I
the OMEs
into it?
The OMEs, a lot of it stems from the OMEs. I mean, honestly, I'm not putting it on that. OMEs, OEMs. Truly is getting to me already. Sorry, guys. But they are
talking about going for the trees here.
They are
Hannah's cough.
The driving force, right? So if they want to do that, then it would be a thing.
Yeah.
They used to, right? We used to see it all the time. People were getting out, and it's hard to be like, you need to do this, but for the sake of the growth and the longevity of what we're trying to accomplish here in stock car racing and NASCAR, we need them to come back. The manufacturers come back and do that.
Yeah, there's a saying that Tony Kornheiser says, and it applies in life, but I think it applies to this conversation too. The answer to all your questions is money.
Always.
It is. I mean, this conversation, we're talking about, right? Bob Brancotti. Hi, Janet. How you doing? Good to see you, honey.
Jesus,
so cute.
Crap.
Did she have the Zoomies today yet?
Nope. That's why we went to the park, because she was being rude earlier. So
wonderful.
Now she's good. She's very content.
Janet, does money talk?
Yes.
What I was saying though was for real. So like the Brancotti thing, right? You put Derek Thorne in that car. He clearly is so good, but then you get up to the top of that mountain, you conquer it, you win a championship. What's next? Theoretically, the National Series.
Right.
He didn't have any money. So he couldn't go there. So what does he do instead? He decides to tear up the West Coast late model scene.
Still tearing it up.
100%. And he will be until the day he decides to hang it up. Right?
I don't know how you're going to beat him. I don't know who, because he works on his own stuff. Like, he's one of the best drivers out there, has some of the best equipment, has some of the best people around him. That's a lot of best. I don't know how you go out there and beat him, honestly.
And then he went down to Florida too in a super late model and was running and won a bunch, almost won the snowball derby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jeremy Doss is another West Coaster that like annihilated everyone out there for years. One of the biggest races and never even got like a glance.
For all the Bubba Pollards and Steven Nassies, like, there's a lot of talent on the West Coast that Bozi, I'm sure, I mean, different disciplines, I understand, but even being at Long Beach this weekend, like, you were able to see probably some somewhat local drivers on a bunch of different disciplines that are based on the West Coast that don't get the shine that they would if they were based on the East Coast. And I don't know whose fault that is, if that's anybody's fault. It's kind of like reminds me of the college football Pac-12 bias thing. Nobody gives the Pac-12 respect. Nobody watches the games because they're on so late.
Hashtag Mountain West Conference.
Yeah. Boise State, baby. Bring out the fire suit and the helmet once again. Blue Turf gang.
Yeah, we actually had a similar conversation on Saturday about Pac-12 and all that stuff, because we were sitting in a restaurant in Long Beach, and we're like, well, the time zone difference now kind of makes some of this stuff work. And my engineer Jeff lives there like an hour south, like near San Diego, an hour south of Long Beach approximately. He's like, I watch all this stuff. Like, why don't you guys watch it? But it's I wanted to add one more point mentioning the late models is, I also think that there is a space for people to be career drivers in a certain discipline. So it doesn't
100%.
all have to be a ladder system, which I like in dirt racing. Is there are people that are career dirt racing drivers. And I think that it needs to be a two-pronged deal, where right now there are a lot of people that are driving late models or super lates or whatever modifieds or whatever, in local or semi-regional series, and that their hope is to move up, or people look at it as a way to move up. But we also need to look at them individually and appreciate people that are competitive in those series and they want to make a career out of it. Absolutely. And I think, talking about, the late model race in Martinsville, or even going, to the modifieds, which I think, talking about somebody like Bonsignore and what he's accomplished recently is probably kind of, a good segue from all that, because that's somebody that I feel like is a career person in modifieds.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Professional transition by you, Bozi. Wow, well done by you. Let's talk about Justin Bonsignore. He wins the Modified Tour Championship. He wins the race at Stafford, by the way,
which is huge.
Only took him 41 tries for a three-time champion to go winless at a track, period. That's wild. But also to go 40-plus races at Stafford. I mean, wow. So he wins the championship, wins the race, three-time champion, second in a row, third in the last 4 years. Like you said, Bozi, I mean, I'm sure Justin Bonsignore probably would entertain an opportunity in the Truck, Xfinity, or Cup Series if a team owner came to him and said, would you like to try this? Doug Coby told me that he absolutely would after that Truck opportunity with GMS. But Mamba, to Bozi's point, right? Justin Bonsignore, as well as Coby, Patrick Emmerling, who is battling Bonsignore for the championship. I mean, there are a ton of modified racers on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour specifically that have carved out a niche and made a name for themselves down there, not even counting all the different modified tours in the Northeast when you think of Tri-Track and all these different things that I'm not well-versed in enough to speak on eloquently. What I'm saying is Bonsignore needs his due, just like all the other drivers that don't necessarily get the chances to move up all the way of the ranks of NASCAR in North America. Bonsignore is the epitome of what other drivers, probably the majority of drivers, are striving for, and that is excellence in their discipline.
Respect to Richie Evans, Mike Stefanik, Teddy Christopher, them boys that carved it out, that gave the Priestes a view, right, through the modifieds. The Steve Parks, like, those guys deserve a lot of credit for making it a viable option, right? There was a lot of career modified guys, and I love that. And they're ground pounders to their core, and that is their niche, and that is their thing, and they're passionate about it. Modified podcast. Very pro mods. Well, pro mods too, but pro modified. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Anyway, I just think, man, they deserve all the credit, and Justin Bonsignore is going to be a Hall of Famer. He'll be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame down here in Charlotte. Pretty much almost has to be. I mean, honestly, with what he's done. And, you know, he deserves that. And put respect for guys that and people that want to be great in their own discipline and just stay right there. Randy LaJoy, 2-time Xfinity champion, right? I mean, Ron Hornaday, right? The Jack Spragues, the Mike said some of these guys have gone up and come down. But like when I remember them, Jason Keller, as a kid, I'm like, no, they ran this and they were bad asses in that. And I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah. I mean, one for me too, Johnny Sauter. I know that he had a stint in Cup with that yellow orange car or
amazing car.
Whichever one.
The whole Sauter family just embodies that though. Like the whole
100%.
Sauter family from the Midwest, they're all still racing.
Yeah. And they will be until they decide to stop because that's what they can do. And that's what they do best. That's what they want to do. You shouldn't be looked down upon or say, oh, you never wanted to try it. Even if you didn't want to, that's fine. You don't need to. You know what I mean? If you're content with where you're at and you're making a living, you're doing what you want to do, that's totally fine. I mean, Hannah, you probably have had experiences with a ton of local racers out in Idaho at Meridian that are very content doing that.
Well, even just in the North, like I think the Northwest and the Northeast are kind of weird mirrors of each other in the sense of that, like modified racing and the super late model scene out there. Yeah. You've got like Garrett Evans, who is one of the most badass guys I've ever met in my entire life. One of the most, you know, embellished racers out there. And he is just humble as can be, goes to the racetrack every weekend with his son. His son's kind of racing now. Like, and he just was good. Like he just didn't really have any aspirations to move up like that. He just was a career super late model driver. And at the time though, they kind of had the NASCAR Northwest tour that he could run, make a payday off of it. You had your Jim Pettit's that was amazing. But then you also kind of had the guys in the West Coast, kind of like we have on the Northeast, like your Eric Holmes, right? That was an amazing racer and got to dabble a little bit in the K&N series. He was a champion with Bill McAnally. And like, you know, he was a driver coach for Todd Gilliland for quite some time and kind of played those cards. But yeah, those guys, like, you know, you especially in the dirt world, I think the idea of being a career racer in your lane in the dirt world is almost more accepted. Like I look at the guys that ran the World of Outlaw late model tour. And if you'd walked up to any of them and said, hey, you think you want to go to NASCAR one day? They'd be like, hell no. I'm good. Well, like I'm good right here. And I know that's different disciplines, but like a lot of drivers, you know, obviously go into it with the goal to get to the top level. But I think Kyle Rickey's calling me, so it's going to make some noise. Hold on. I think, you know, a lot of them, even like you see the midget racers and the Power Eye guys and like, you know, these kids in the micros and stuff.
I think that stuff should be encouraged.
They're like, right. But they're like, oh, I want to get to NASCAR because they see NASCAR. Where it's like, I know some of the dirt racer guys too, that like, they make a damn good living going and playing. Like you can't, I mean, I know Jonathan Davenport has he farms and that kind of stuff, but you can't tell me that like Brandon Shepard and them that don't go run these. Freaking Brandon Overton has literally cashed in like almost $500,000 this year just by running big late model races. And you can't tell me that if you walked up to Brandon Overton and said, hey, Brandon, you're going to get a part-time Xfinity ride next year, but you got to give up your dirt super late model racing. He'd go, hell no, I am at the top of my game. I am the best super late model racer right now in dirt.
Why would you?
And I think that's awesome. Go down as the best super late model racer on dirt. Like,
I think that stuff should be encouraged. Don't you, Bozi?
Yeah, that's kind of my point is we should be able to appreciate people for their specialty and not just look at every smaller or regional or local series as a stepping stone. It should be appreciated in its own right. Of course, there are certain people that are going to go through it like that, and there should be some opportunities for people to go to that next level, but we should also just look at it appreciate it for what it is individually. And as far as people going racing other places, my view has always been that even if somebody specializes in something, if they get a shot to go race whatever it is, if they're a real racer, they're going to take it. I mean, as long as, you know, they feel safe doing so, they're going to go into that car and go do whatever. And I mean, I've just, you know, known dealing with drivers that I've worked with personally, what they've done in the past and the opportunities they've had. And I've gone to some of the places with them just because I want the exposure to see it. And, you know, a few months ago, Zach Veach, who's not in my car, but he's in the other Lexus, had an opportunity to run a 410 sprint car in Ohio. He's like, hey, you want to go check this out? You know, we're going to race. And go test and do all this stuff. So I jumped in the car with him because I didn't know anything about sprint cars, and he wanted to run a sprint car just to be something to add to his skill set. So I can always appreciate that because there's an opportunity. And even as a mechanic and, you know, a pit crew member and stuff like that, if I have an opportunity to see something different, even if it's not my specialty or work on it, I'm going, because I want that expertise. Because what I find is, even if it's a completely different discipline of motorsport, everything I look at or everything I touch or anything I participate in, there's always something I can take away. So even though a 410 sprint car and a GT3 car are nothing similar, I can see something that those guys are doing, a way of approaching a part or a setup or something that may click for me somewhere down the road. I was like, hey, these guys did this, maybe we should try it, and maybe we'll learn something that typically you wouldn't learn on a GT3 car or anywhere else. And I think to kind of close up that whole point is, we're going to see some of the separation and some crossovers with the next gen car coming in NASCAR. I think that we're going to end up seeing, for the first few years here at least, a lot more career truck and Xfinity series people, where they're not necessarily going to want to move up to the Cup series because the car is going to be so different. So a lot of people that are used to this type of car are going to stay in trucks or Xfinity and not move up to Cup. And we also may see some crossovers from sports car people or other disciplines getting into Cup. And I know just from personal experience and kind of